Hi everybody, welcome to FleeWay Gaming. My name's Karina, and today we're looking at a single-player game called Mini Metro. Mini Metro is, I think, best described as a resource management game. Your job is to build a metro system, otherwise perhaps known in your area of the world as a subway or even a tram system. And how we do this is each shape that appears on the field represents a station, and smaller shapes gathering at those shapes are your passengers hoping to head to the corresponding shaped station. I know that sounds maybe a little bit odd, but it will make perfect sense shortly. So just looking at the main menu, you can see you can go right in and play. Resume a game you have underway already. There is a daily challenge which does change every day, and it is, I believe, on a difficult mode where you cannot adjust the train lines, and I'll explain more on that later. In options, we'll take a little peek. So all your usual adjustments are here. Your resolution, full screen, language. I'm currently in night mode. I find it a little bit easier on my eyes, and they are kind enough to include a colorblind mode for those who require it. And you can even turn off the transitions if you're working on a very low or low power machine. It can save you a little bit. Or if it just the transitions between the sliding transitions that just happen to annoy you or something, you can turn those off. Now, from the options is where you get to the guide and the tutorial, and these I highly recommend. It fully explains how the game works. So as you can see, these are passengers are the little ones, and stations are the large ones. And you connect them by lines with trains that run on them and carry those passengers back and forth. You build the line by clicking on a shape and dragging it. And you can extend those lines by dragging the T and pulling it over to another station. You can also shorten them the same way. Just grab that T handle and drag it backward. When stations pop up, and they do randomly, you can just grab the middle of the line and pull it down to connect them. And you can get rid of them the same way. You just grab onto the line, pull it past the station and release, and it should pop off. Now you can create a looped system where your track just goes around and round a certain number of stations. But you can also release it by pressing on that T handle again. There are rivers in most of the, if not all of the maps, and you need either a bridge or a tunnel in order to cross them. And you only have a limited number of bridges and tunnels, so you're going to have to decide how to use them in the most economical way. Now, there is overcrowding, and this will cause you to lose the game. Once the shapes start to gather in greater numbers, you'll start to get a timer on that station, as you can see happening here. Once that timer gets to the end, your time is up, and your entire metro system is forced to close because of overcrowding. And here in the example, I'm just going to let it run until you can see what that looks like. Now, there are ways to overcome that. You can add additional locomotives to the line. You can add carriages to those existing locomotives so they can carry a larger number. You can extend other lines through so you have more than one train. But once it gets to this point, your game is over. Okay, let's just back out. There is a tutorial that you can try. So we'll pop in there and take a quick look. Now it starts you with a couple of stations. Again, just click on a station, drag over, and release on the other shape. It automatically picks up a locomotive and places it on that line. And right away it'll start all on its own, collecting passengers and moving them where they want to go. Now it wants us to drag this part, this T, and pull it over. And now those passengers can reach the triangle. So now we'll just grab the middle of that line and pull it down, so that we can accommodate that. Now as you notice, this line did not disappear. It won't disappear until the train has stopped using it. And we'll do the same for that shape. As you can see again, the train was still in use of the old line, and it disappears when it's no longer needed. Now there's another one way over here. It would be kind of awkward to try and pull this line over, so we're just going to grab it separately, start a new line, and pull that over. As you can see, each river crossing uses a tunnel. It also could use a bridge depending on the city map you're playing in. Now at the end of each week, and this is in a regular mode, you'll receive a locomotive. Sometimes you'll receive other resources. So in this case it's giving us tunnels, but usually you get a choice between two different resources. Okay, now it wants us to put an extra locomotive on here to help out the load and get people moving faster. And if this is going a little bit too quick for you, there are controls up here on the top right to either fast forward or pause when you need to. This little walking gentleman is counting the number of passengers we have transported so far. And if you were looking over here where it had the little message pop up, if you click on your line and want to close it, just click the X and your line closes. But this is going to leave a lot of people in the lurch, so actually I didn't like that. Let's do it like this. There we go. That to me seems like a better use of our line. And now we have a choice. We can either extend the red line or the orange line or start a new one. So let's start a new one. Just because it's sort of far apart and it would use up another one of our tunnels, and we really don't need to use that right now. Now that changes things. So what we're going to do is we're going to have that line disappear, extend that over, and then bring this line in. Now as you can see, I've chosen to connect all the lines at the square. There's only one square on the map, so all the lines will need to reach it somehow. As long as lines connect to each other in some way, they'll be able to transfer passengers. This can lead to overcrowding in a specific place, however. So we'll just want to try and avoid having that happen. When resources get limited, having to deal with overcrowded stations becomes more and more difficult. So this tutorial, here we go. So this one gives you a new line. And you do have a number of lines you can eventually get. I think there is some variation between the city maps by 1 or 2 lines. but you'll see more as you play the game. Okay, why don't we go in and actually play a real game? So go back to the menu. Now, there are different modes you can play in, as I alluded to earlier. There's normal, extreme, endless, and creative. So we're going to be playing today in normal mode, but in extreme, what it means is once you place a track, it's permanent. You can't move it. So this is more for experienced players. I am not that great at this game, or basically any other game, which is the point of FleeWay gaming, is to show you that you really don't need to be great at these things. You just need to be able to enjoy them. Especially today when a lot of people are stuck at home, it's a nice creative outlet sometimes. And I find there is a lot of creativity involved in this game, a lot of critical thinking involved in this game, and I, in general, find it very relaxing. So if you're like me and just are not interested in games that require a lot of experience and it's just something you want to do for fun, there are tons of games out there that allow you to do that. Now, in endless mode, this just basically means that stations don't overcrowd and trigger a timer that will end a game. So you can just keep playing and playing. New stations will continue to pop up, and you'll continue to get a weekly bonus of resources. In creative, it's a little bit different. Creative mode allows you to place stations wherever you want, any shape you want. You can have as many lines as you need, and again, there's no overcrowding. But we're going to go back and play normal mode. So on this timeline, or this train line, there are a number of cities available. If this is your first time playing Mini Metro, most of these will be locked. You need to unlock them by playing, it will tell you in the description what station you need to play in order to unlock them. And I believe unlocking happens at 500 passengers transported. We'll hop back to the beginning of the line at London. I believe this is the first city that is unlocked and available to play. So just click play, or you can actually just click on the city a second time. Now it's starting us off with these three shapes, which are the three basic shapes in the game. So we can just collect those and be on our way. Now relatively quickly another station, and here it comes, is going to be added, so we'll just extend up there. The other thing we haven't covered are special shapes. There are a number of unique shapes that start to appear on the playing field. They add an additional challenge. Being a unique shape, there will only be one, which means the entire map will be trying to get their passengers to that one shape, the ones that wish to go there. So you're gonna end up with overcrowding transfer points and whatnot to look out for. So with this one, we're just gonna add a new line. This also uses up a tunnel. We have two more left here. We also have one more line available. Now, as I think I mentioned, you need to have a locomotive available if you want to use a new line. How are we going to handle this? Well, might as well just use another line. And again, as you see, it used that locomotive on that line automatically. Now, if you have there could be cases where you have lines without locomotives. You can always build a line if you have one available, but without a locomotive available, none of those passengers are going to be served, and they're going to start to accumulate. So if you do happen to find yourself in that situation where you have a line available but you don't have any locomotives, what you can choose to do is just extend one of the existing lines to cover a station, like this one, or you can still build that line, but grab one of these cars, like a line with multiple locomotives on it, grab one of those additional locomotives and move them over. Now we've made it through 1 week, and we get our new locomotive, and here's a choice it's giving us this time. We can either get a carriage or tunnels. Now we have one tunnel, so why don't we grab a carriage this time? And we'll try and see what line here has the most passengers. This is pretty early on in the game, so not too many lines are overloaded at this time. So you'll notice we started this game up pretty close to these 3 stations. Or was it these 3? I can't recall now. But slowly over time, the map starts to recede to make room for other stations and a larger playing field. The other thing I think you'll notice is each of these lines has its own tone, which ends up making for a really unique harmony with its own underlying bit of dissonance. And each time passengers are dropped off and picked up, small different tones are played. So by the time this game gets further on, it has its own, each layout has its own unique music, really. And in some cases it can be a little uncomfortable, but I usually find that it's very pleasantly relaxing. Okay, blue line's pretty short, so we're gonna go grab this and go up here. Now, here again, you can see up at the top right corner, it's counting the number of passengers we're moving, and it's almost the end of the week. Sunday at midnight is when you get your resource reward. Now we're just going to grab that down. We don't have any unique shapes yet, but they should start popping up fairly quickly. We do seem, get our rewards. The other thing you can have are interchanges. These will increase the capacity of a station where you find a lot of your passengers have to be placed in order to make it to lines with the specialized shapes. So that could come in handy. So we're going to grab that. Now it looks like perhaps the yellow line is starting to get kind of crowded, so we're going to drag. So I just went over to the carriage, clicked and dragged, and then just drop it on the line where you want it to connect. Now we also have a couple of extra trains here, and it looks like the orange is getting pretty long, so I'm just going to start another locomotive on the opposite end. In fact, I believe yellow could also use one. Now, we'll probably need that interchange on this square, seeing as all stations connect here, or so far all lines connect here rather. But we'll see how that goes. And I find it pretty unique how this map slowly resizes. It's such a subtle movement that it's hardly noticeable as it's happening. Now as you see, we got a unique shape. This cross appeared on the orange line, And because it's a unique shape, I'm actually going to drag this blue line over to there, so that more than one line is servicing it. Now, as the game progresses, the frequency of the stations appearing will increase. On some maps, it's very noticeable when that happens, but not always. You just sort of get the feeling that they are increasing in frequency. The other thing that will happen is passenger volume will suddenly increase between weeks. Now, let's see, let's grab a new line, seeing as we don't have any of those. But now with this unique shape, these other lines, the yellow and the orange, well, the yellow, will have to transfer at some point. So it'll either be doing it here at the, as you can see, it's doing it there at the square. So the more lines we add through as the game progresses, you'll find that transfer points will start to get quite busy, and you'll need one of those intersections or one of those terminal points just to increase the capacity. So everything seems to be moving pretty nicely so far, but it'll just keep getting busier and busier. The lines will keep getting longer, and it'll get harder and harder to manage the volume on these tracks. Now, as I said, I'm not particularly great at this game. I don't go into games trying to dominate them. I just want to have fun. So if you're like me, or if you're just really new to games in general, I like these sort of small, sort of puzzle-ish games. They, like I said, they find them relaxing, and they can help your critical thinking, and other games are good for situational awareness, and there's all sorts of benefits to gaming. Now we have a line, so we're an available line, so we're just going to go and do this to try and help ease some of the burden off of these lines. And as you can see, this dark blue line is starting to get mighty long, but we don't have any trains or additional locomotives or carriages to help it along at this time. Right, something to keep in mind. Here we go. Get an extra locomotive. Good, we also got an extra carriage. So I'm going to pop another locomotive on that blue line to help out. And I think I'm also going to give him an additional carriage. Now orange is also getting quite long. It already has 2 locomotives though, so we're okay. For now. Over there. Here we go. Just pull this one over. Now we no longer have any more tunnels, so we have to be really aware if we need to cross another river. We'll either have to adjust a line in order to free up a tunnel, or start a new line if available on one side of the river. Now you can have lines, as it showed in the guide and the tutorial, that loop around. Sometimes that's really beneficial. It can help keep traffic flowing a lot more smoothly. I've used that technique a few times when it really starts to get busy, and it does help. So because this is pretty close, we're just going to join that up so that again there's more than one line that's hitting a unique shape. We got a little bit of a busy one over here. As you can see, it starts to chirp. So anything more than 6 shapes on that is going to start counting as overcrowding. And you start getting this timer that runs all the way around. If it reaches a complete circle around this station, your game is over. But I think we're going to be okay here. We'll just grab another line. So let's see where some of these trouble points are. So far, I think we're doing pretty well. We haven't had any major overcrowding. Nothing that the system hasn't been able to handle and reset. And we've already passed, we're almost at 700 passengers, which is pretty good. Again, the achievement for each map, I believe, is 500. That should unlock other city maps. But things are starting to get busier and busier, as you can see. More and more passengers appearing on the map. And this will increase in frequency as well. The number and speed at which passengers start appearing at stations does increase. So as you can see, this is a transfer point, and I've done this purposely because, again, initially it was the only square on the map. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to use this intersection here, drag it over, and now that has higher capacity. Now we've got some chirping over here. This is a pretty busy station. Let's see. This train will be able to take care of it, however. But if you find you have a station on a line that is really getting overcrowded quickly and there isn't a car, let's take care of this. We already have a line available to use if we need it, so we're just going to grab these tunnels because we don't have any. Drag that down here. So again, if you have a station that is getting overcrowded and you don't have a train that's going to be coming through anytime soon, you can actually grab these trains off the track and reposition them. So for instance, it's getting a little busy down here. Well, this guy's just over there, so it should be okay. You can grab that station, drag it over. I'm just going to pop it on the other end of the line. But that can help you stave off overcrowding. And as you can see, having that intersection here, or that terminal here, did help with that what would have been overcrowding. Okay, we're just going to grab this light blue, take care of that. And again, we have a situation where the station over here is getting overcrowded. So we're going to grab this guy and just drop him in front of it. So that stops the timer, moves some people. Now you do end up losing the passengers that were already on that locomotive when you grab it and drop it elsewhere. But hopefully there's only a few people you end up losing. And here's another busy intersection right here. So as you can see, there are more and more passengers showing up on this line. We've got a spare here. I'm just gonna pop this guy right there. Now the congestion on these lines is getting more and more frequent. You can see we've got this one on a timer, this one over here on a timer, though this car should be able to take care of that. But what might end up happening, rather up here, is our game might end right here. Now I could move things around and prevent that. But I'm just going to let you see what it looks like when the game fails. There you go, game over. We managed to move 116 passengers over 49 days. Now you can choose to restart the same map, continue in endless mode, which again means there's no overcrowding. You continue to receive weekly resources, and it's done, I think, on more of a volume basis. Actually, instead of a weekly resource. So every time you have like a higher volume on your tracks of passengers being carried, you get additional resources. Again, there's that creative mode. So again, no overcrowding, but it also will not change. So you're not going to get additional stations unless you put them in. Okay? So, but we're just going to pop back to the menu. And back to the main menu. And that's Mini Metro, everybody. I really hope you found value in this video and you enjoyed learning about this great little game. I would highly recommend it. If you choose to download any game, unfortunately, you do that at your own risk. But this, I think, is definitely worth it, especially if you can pick it up on sale. At the time of this recording, there are all sorts of sprint sales going on. So take a look and see if you can find this at a decent price and give it a try. And if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when we put more videos up on the channel. And if you check out the description below, you'll find links to our social media pages. So if you want to come by and have a chat, we're on Discord most days. So you're more than welcome to come by. There's also other games and all sorts of fun happening over on our channel, so please remember to check it out. Thanks again, everybody. Take care.